thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Lanaya Lewis. I am the media-related professional with the National Association of Black Journalists, Sacramento. I am also the Sacramento State Public Information Officer and the CEO of Lanaya Enterprises, which is a PR boutique agency. So I'm excited to be here today. We have a few of our board members that are here who are a part of our new nonprofit organization. We have our president, Marcus D. Smith. We have Brandy Cummings. We have Danielle Wilborn. We have Courtney Dempsey. So thank you all for being on here today, and thank you to our committee for putting this together. We have an exciting webinar for you today where we are talking about how to pitch your organization, your events, and, just hear straight from journalists on how you can do this. And so before we jump right into our panel discussion, I am going to share my screen with you to show you a little bit more about who the National Association of Black Journalists Sacramento is. Okay, can you all see that? Perfect. All right. So we are a new nonprofit organization, and our ultimate goal is to make sure that we are elevating and educating our journalists and media professionals. So no matter whether you're in front of the camera, behind the camera, you're a publicist, a marketing specialist, anyone in communications, we welcome you to our organization. And so this is our lovely board here. We have student representation from Sacramento State and UC Davis. And then we also have a variety of journalists. We have those from Good Day Sacramento, KCRA. Who else do we have? We have the Sacramento Bee. So we definitely have a variety, and we're so excited that we have everyone here. And so really what we do is we have a variety of professional development opportunities that we give to our members, and then also events like this where we open it up to the public. And really what we do is we make sure that our professionals are have a resource and they have an advocate group that's able to help them along their journey in journalism or being a media related professional. And so throughout the year, we'll be hosting different events. We'll be doing a lot of outreach and going into the community and really making sure that the newer generation of journalists are able to have mentors and people that they can go to when they have questions about what it means to enter into the journalism field. And then also we have the tough conversations of making sure that we're a voice to advocate for diversity in newsrooms and the stories that journalists produce. So we do try to make sure that we connect with leadership in different newsrooms as well. And so if you are on this call and you want to be a member of our organization, we do have different memberships. We have professional memberships, that's $50 for full-time journalists and those in management, your media-related membership, and also we have student membership. And I will say this starts as early as high school. So you don't have to be a college student yet. You are more than welcome to join us if you know someone that's in high school that's interested in journalism or any media related field. All right. So that's just a quick rundown. Of course, we have our events and things like that. You can also email us, NABJ Sacramento@gmail.com. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Now we're going to get into the fun part, which we are going to introduce our panelists today. And let me just go ahead. Let me just do this version. All right. So first up, we have Courtney Dempsey. Courtney, raise your hand or say hello.
Good morning. Good afternoon for those of you on the East Coast.
Yes. So Courtney Dempsey joined KMAX 31 staff back in August of 1995, where she is an anchor for Good Day, a live and interactive morning show. She started her career by working part-time while attending Sacramento State University and joined the Good Day team full-time after graduation. Isn't that great? Like right after Go ahead, give me a job. Courtney trained in various forms of dance for more than 30 years, dancing for several professional ensembles. Though she no longer performs, she has a passion for the art and uses her training in her church's praise dance ministry. As a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Jack and Jill of America, National Association of Black Journalists, and a life member of Sacramento State alumni, Courtney stays active in the community. She has a smart, beautiful daughter and is married to a wonderful man who understands her shopping habits. Okay. So you like to just shop till you drop. All right. Any words that you want to say, Courtney?
I just want to say good morning. Thank you so much for having me on the panel, and I'm excited.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Lawrence Larry Lee, and he is the president and publisher of the Observer Media Group and the Sacramento Observer newspaper. So Larry Lee is a life who has a lifelong career in ethnic media and marketing, inherited an admirable sense of quality, community, commendable work ethic, and dedication to excellence from his parents, the late Dr. William H. Lee and Catherine C. Lee, founders of the award-winning Sacramento Observer. The Observer has been publishing since 1962 and has received more than 700 awards for its journalism excellence and community service. In his role as president and publisher, Larry has taken that bold creative legacy and applied it to a number of exciting products that influence, inform, and impact the African American audience he serves. Under Lee's leadership, The Observer continues to evolve and was awarded the 2023 John B. Westworm Award, naming it the nation's best Black newspaper, a distinction it has earned 7 times. Congratulations. Larry is a graduate of the San Jose State University School of Journalism and Mass Communications. He currently serves as the chair of the Local Media Foundation Board of Directors, is on the board of the Local Media Consortium, and is a member of Visit Sacramento's board of directors. Lee is the recipient of numerous awards. Most recently, he was recognized in 2023 by the Sacramento Business Journal as one of Sacramento's most admired CEOs and was named the National Newspaper Publishers Association 2023 Publisher of the Year Award. He is also founding member of 2 collaborations, Word in Black, a collaborative of 10 leading Black publishers in the U.S. that aims to confront inequities, evaluate solutions, and amplify the Black experience by reporting, collecting, and sharing stories about real people and communities across the country, and Solving Sacramento, an 8-member journalism collaboration shining a light on the Sacramento region's most challenging issues. So welcome, Larry. Congratulations on all you've been able to accomplish, because listen, that's an impressive list. Anything you want to say to our attendees today?
No, thank you for having me. Next time I'll have to make sure to give you the short version of the bio.
Listen, it's okay. We need to know about all the
Thank you.
accomplishments. All right.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much. It's good to be
much.
here.
All right, next up, we have President and CEO Jay King. He is a Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter, record label executive, a radio personality, and small business advocate. Appointed as President and CEO of the CBCC in June 2019, Jay's visionary leadership and tireless work ethic sets the tone for the CBCC. A champion for African American small and micro business owners, Jay serves as the chair for Caltrans statewide Small Business Council, African American Ad Hoc Committee. He is also a member of the California Department of General Services and California High Speed Rail Small Business Councils, as well as the founder and chairman of the North Sacramento Leadership Council, and the founder and president of the Greater Sacramento Financial Literacy Group. Jay is also a board member for the Neighborhood Wellness Project and the United College Action Network Incorporated. And Jay is determined to put a mark on the small business community throughout the state of California. So welcome, Jay King. We are so excited to have you today. Any words for our attendees?
Thank you for having me, and look forward to talking to everybody.
Awesome. All right, and next up we have Skyler Henry. He is a Washington, D.C. based correspondent for CBS News and CBS NewsPath, the network's affiliate services division serving more than 200 stations across the country. Since joining in 2019, he's covered politics from the front lines, including the impeachment trials of former President Trump, the 2020 election, and the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Henry has also covered stories outside of the Beltway, including the unrest in the aftermath of the death of George Floyd, the coronavirus pandemic, and an in-depth investigation into rap lyrics being controversially used in criminal court cases. Important conversations, important stories. Thank you so much, Skylar, for being here. Anything that you want to say to our attendees today?
Yeah, just happy to be here. Honored to be along such esteemed panelists as we get ready to get this thing rolling.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you all so very much. First, we're going to get into our questions for our panelists. And throughout this time, if you do have questions, something pops up in your head, you can just go ahead and drop them in the chat, and we'll be sure to look at those and answer those as soon as possible. But first things first, this wasn't on my list, but how did you get introduced to journalism? And we can start with Courtney.
Kind of an accident. I intended to be a writer when I was, in high school. I was ridiculously shy, so broadcasting was nowhere near the top of my list. But once I got to college, you take a survey class, and you kind of dabble in a little of this, and they teach you a little bit about that, and you read a little bit about this. And I felt like growing up in the Bay Area, I saw much more diversity than I saw when I came to Sacramento, and kind of felt like, okay, maybe somebody who looks like me should tell stories for people who look like me. So maybe that's me. That's kind of how I fell into it.
Okay. Larry?
Oh, mine is a little different. I was born into it. I was born about 10 years into the creation of the Sacramento Observer newspaper, which my dad and mom were part of the founding families of the Observer. So I grew up in the Black press, grew up serving Sacramento's Black community, really being excited about the weekly publication that we would produce every week and the special editions that we would do. I was very fortunate to have been at the foot of both Bill and Catherine Lee, who were exceptional servants who grew to be great journalists. Dad grew to be a tremendous journalist and publisher, and so I didn't. I was the youngest of three boys, two older brothers. Neither one of them. It was a family business. Neither one of them necessarily went into the family business, but I had a conversation. My parents had a conversation with me when I was about 18, asking me if I thought I would want to come back to the family business after college, and I quickly said yes. And I think that while that may feel like it was added a lot of responsibility to the shoulders of the narrow shoulders of a 18-year-old, it really kind of gave me purpose. So when I went to school, really zoned in and focused in on journalism as being an area that I wanted to study. And so I took the learnings that I had from home and learnings I had from school. Had a great college career. I was the first Black editor at San Jose State's daily school newspaper. And then I was the first editor ever to be asked to be editor twice. And so I had that distinction and worked at the Oregonian in Portland when the Oregonian was like the biggest paper in the state of Oregon. I learned some great journalists in a variety of areas. Video, not we weren't doing video back then, but visual design and editorial management and the like. So brought it all back home and have been here since 1997 full time. So.
Incredible. Jay, how did you get involved in journalism?
Being on the radio, playing music in a community, especially Sacramento, where we were not served very well when it came to radio. Radio was a part-time thing for us. You know, we had KPOP, KPIP, and when I was growing up in the 70s here, but there wasn't much news. If we wanted news, we got it from the Sacramento Observer. So to do journalism on the radio, because really that's what it is when we start talking about some of the issues that are pertinent in our community, in our city, in our state. So for me, it happened at radio first, online, digital radio, with the J. King Network when I created that back in 2009, and then 2015 when I came to KDEE, first to play music, but because of the issues that were serious in our community, giving our community a voice. So.
Amazing. Skyler.
This was very much a happy accident. It was something that was like on my C list of things that I was interested in growing up and going to school and all that stuff. I originally actually wanted to be an architect, but I loved being on the radio. But from like a entertainment DJ capacity, and so it was a lot of music and you know, talking about the latest and greatest happening in Hollywood and all those sorts of things. So much so that I actually did internships in Los Angeles and was like getting ready to go on that track. But as everybody here knows, you know, those jobs are few and far between. And I had an OG tell me, you know, if you want to do this, do the news. There will always be a need for the news. And just based off of, you know, the foundation that I picked up in college and shadowing when I was working as a production assistant in Atlanta, that's sort of how I got the bug, if you will, and it just has been an uphill but incredible journey ever since. And I think now, as important as ever, is you know, journalism, facts, storytelling is incredibly important, especially as we talk about our community. And so, yeah, that's how it all happened.
Hey, everything kind of just falls where it needs to, and the story writes itself. And speaking of that, like, I want each of you to explain, you know, how does news stories travel in your newsrooms? Because it can look different from on a national level to a radio perspective into print. Everyone has their own system. So, Skylar, maybe you can start. How does it work when it comes to how a news story travels in your newsroom?
When you're saying a story, you mean from like a pitch, or like if something were to happen, how it sort of makes its way through?
Let's start with a pitch.
So from a pitch, there's different versions of what that looks like. I think depending on the organization or where the story idea might have come from, usually it'll either go to our assignment desks or it'll go to a specific producer or correspondent reporter. And they will then try to figure out, in our case, how it has a national sort of appeal, right? You know, usually big stats, big trends, those sorts of things are usually what we jump at first, and then obviously what impacts as many people as possible. You know, is it the cost of XYZ going up? Is it the cost of XYZ going down? You know, are there crime trends that we're paying attention to? Those sorts of things. And then from there, based off of, you know, respective regions and those sorts of things, then those stories then get assigned. And then you know, go about telling the story in the traditional sense. But as it relates to breaking news, I'll give you an example. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had that bridge collapse in Baltimore that impacted obviously this entire region here in the mid-Atlantic. And, you know, that was something that happened overnight. And really that was an all hands on deck sort of thing. You know, we had folks come up from New York. We had obviously our folks in Baltimore and in Washington, D.C. all sort of flock to this major news event just to try to get each and every angle as possible, and, you know, do extended coverage on our streaming platform and obviously on our main newscasts as well. But you know, just depending on what the story is, obviously weather is a big one as well. We tend to try to, you know, put as many resources into whatever is breaking as possible, and then try to really wrap our hands around said coverage so that we leave no stone left uncovered.
Okay. And Larry, as far as the structure for print, um, who really is like the decision maker, or how does that work? So a reporter sees a story, for example, how would the decision come for whether you cover a story or not?
Well, my newsroom is it's not big, but it's also not really terribly small. I mean, we have about uh, 5 full-time reporters and two other editors, full-time editors that are focused in on serving our community. And then there's me as a publisher. But the basically stories come in. Uh, the good thing is I've had some reporters who've been with us for years. People like Genoa Barrow, who's been with us for more than 25 years as a senior staff writer. And then we have other reporters who are getting to over the last couple of years. We've grown the staff, tripled the size of the staff, and have been able to bring in some people that are connecting with the community in lots of different ways. So people have, they don't necessarily have, we don't necessarily have a lot of beats. We do have an education reporter, and Genoa handles health equity issues, but um, our reporters are, they develop the relationships with folks, and folks, will tell us about different stories that we should cover, or things that they think that are important to the community or want to have a light shined on them. Um, the way we address our content, really, we're very focused on local. So, for instance, conversation came up the other day about, OJ Simpson passing, and should we dedicate any time or resources to doing any stories on OJ and the passing that he had? And we collectively all just kind of said no, because it wasn't, I mean, for us to do it. Now in 1995, right? We did lots of coverage about the O.J. Simpson trial. It was pre social media, not much with the internet, and so it was important for us to have national content into our print product. We've made a deliberate change over the last few years. You know, for many years, uh, the Observer brought Black America to Sacramento. So there was no internet, there was no really way to get national content about issues that were impacting African Americans outside of the city of Sacramento. So while we did local coverage, we also were very strategic in trying to make sure that we had content in our publication that reflected what was going on in Black America. So we could see, issues that were going on that were acting African Americans in Detroit or Chicago or Atlanta or wherever it might be. But over the last few years, as the internet has become more and more important in our lives, as well as social media, we're really hyper focused on telling the stories that are completely going untold in our community. So that's and so some of those stories come in from our reporters. Sometimes people email us things like that, or reach out to us on social media and tell us about different things. But we talk. Our editorial team meets every day, and we talk about what stories to cover, and how can we dedicate the resources that we have to do that. We don't have the wealth of resources that we would love to have, but we do a pretty good job with the content that we have. If you pick up our print edition, basically every story in there is a locally created story. The digital, obviously, if you go online, you're going to see a variety of content, both national and local. But we really try to hone in on local content and try to tell those stories about our community.
Okay. And Courtney, what is that story selection like for you all? Who has that final say if a story gets to get covered or not?
So in my newsroom, we're a duopoly, meaning we've got two different stations working in the same building. So we've got CBS 13, which is your traditional news looking for local, breaking stories, and also expounding on things that have been happening in our region. And then Good Day is more of the human interest side, right? We're looking for local businesses, new organizations, ways to tell stories for people who otherwise wouldn't have a platform to get their stories out. So for us, it kind of depends on what type of story it is. When things come into our newsroom, obviously we've got an assignment desk, which is very similar to most outlets. But we've also got our executive producers on the news side and on the Good Day side that decide whether or not this is something that we can do long form on Good Day, which is a 3-minute live feature, right? We'll go to your business, we will go to your event, we will preview your event and give you 2.5, 3 minutes to show us why other people should come take part in what you're doing. And then on the CBS 13 side, it's the buttoned up, ways to tell stories, and then how to continue to tell the story as the story progresses, if it indeed does progress. So we kind of have two different groups of people looking at the same stories on how to break it out and how to tell the story different ways. Most of the time it comes in via, a tip from our viewers, but a lot of times it might come from a press release, something like that. And again, that's when we kind of look at it and say, okay, is this more of a Good Day story? We go this direction. Is it more of a CBS 13 story? We go this direction. So a lot of times it's a story that will be something that we can both tackle. CBS 13 will handle the nuts and bolts, tell the who, what, when, where, why, how. And then Good Day will show how is it affecting folks in Stockton? How is it affecting folks in Manteca? We'll go to the thing and show you what it looks like, that kind of thing. So we probably have at any given time, I'm going to say at least 5 different, I'll call them tentacles, touching every story, because we got to figure out which way do we want to take it.
Okay. And then Jay, how do you all do a selection process for content for the radio? Who's the decision maker on what gets to air?
Well, that's the unique thing about our station. It's a community radio station. A lot of what happens comes from the community. And then a lot of the voices on the air are from the community. And we all have different interests and different points of concern for different reasons. There are women on our Lady Charmaine covers a lot of entertainment stuff, but she can get real heavy, based on some of the women issues out there. Same with Miss Wanda on Saturdays. Tristan Mays is really connected to the community, so he talks about a lot of different things in the morning. Leon on Sunday is really more political. You have Baxter Arterberry, who is more financially conscious and tackles those things. And then you have Keisha Matthews, Selling Sacramento, who really delves into not just buying and selling real estate, but some of the political things, some of the racial components. And then my show, we really, talk about a lot of different things from a community aspect. Mm-hmm. So the news comes to us different ways, but mostly from the community. And based on what the community is saying, we try to put information back out to them. We want to give them real information. COVID was one of the examples. A lot of misinterpretation, misrepresentation of the COVID-19 situation. We really honed in on that. When the Art Mall wouldn't let Black kids walk in the mall without their parents. A parent called us and told us. And I said, I'm never going to the mall again. And I didn't go to the mall for 9 months. And I said it on the radio. If they don't want our kids in the malls, we should not support Art Mall. And Art Mall called the radio station and said, hey, we need to fix this. And that's why we started getting people of color in the mall as security and to interface with our kids, and our kids could walk in the malls just like anybody else. So it happens from our community. And that's what makes a community radio station with a voice that people listen to, that's connected, really important. What makes our city so unique to have people of color in powerful positions. And like Larry and I are friends. So, to have a newspaper, an African-American newspaper that really covers the news, and that to partner with us and for us to partner with them is really important. To have Courtney on television to to help us get good stories out, and because we know what images are portrayed about us. So I think we have a very unique situation, a very great situation here in Sacramento as it relates to the media and how we are able to get information out.
Yeah. I think the big takeaway from this snippet was that a lot of our community members think that one person makes the decision when it comes to whether a story gets covered, but really it's a collaborative. It takes the team to decide, is this really important? Should this, can this wait? Or, whatever the case may be, is this just a web article? So I think that showed that it takes a team effort. Now, this is a fun one. What elements do you think make for a good news story? Because I know you all get pitches that people think, you know, that they just have the best news ever, but it's just like, no, it kind of missed the mark a little bit. What do you think makes for a good news story? And we can start with Courtney.
Okay, so this is the part that I'll be honest, this is why I woke up this morning. Because this is what I really I help us help you. I want to tell our stories so bad, but you got to help us help you, right? There are some stories that are, and I think this is the other thing too. You have to know what kind of a story is a visual story and what kind of story lends more to long form print, things like that. On Good Day, we are very much a look at us. This is what we're doing. But, right. This is our story. This is for 4.5 hours. This is us all day. So we're looking for things that have action. We're looking for things that are demonstrable rather. We're looking for things. I don't want to just say that are on fire, but if you got fire, we're probably going to come. So you kind of have to know what your media audience is, and how it makes sense, right? The things that Good Day tends to do are things that are happening in the community, places that we can go, like I mentioned earlier, places that we can go, things that we can show, people that we can talk to and interact with. Things that we do on the CBS 13 side, more informational, and definitely we want to see the thing because it's television. But it's also something that we can start the story here on CBS 13. We might start the story here and then continue to tell the story as it progresses. I like to say that Good Day is the annoying little cousin of Big Brother CBS 13, right? So the news is coming from the CBS 13 side. Good Day also handles news very well, but we also want to go with you to the party. So if you can kind of figure out, when you look at your events, if you can kind of figure out, is this something that we want to tell people to come to the party with us? Or something that we want the community to know about that is very informational, that is very educational, but it's got some things that can be shown and things that can be done. That's Good Day. If this is something that people need to know about this right now, and it's more informational, it's more important to the way you raise your children and the way that you interact with your community, that's probably more CBS 13. Although we share stories all day long. Things that we do on Good Day end up on CBS 13, and things that are on CBS 13 end up on Good Day. So in our newsroom, it's a bit of a unique situation because we tend to cover the same story very differently, and it almost looks like it's two different things, but it's not. We're just telling you from one end to the other how important this is to our community. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it did. It did. Skyler, what elements do you believe make for a good news story?
Visual. Speaking obviously from a TV perspective, but more visual. I think a lot of times we'll get pitches, much like how we talked about in the last conversation, and something might be good, but I think a lot of what it is that we want is something that is incredibly show and tell. A lot of our executive producers, when we are in our morning meetings, will actually overemphasize the fact that they want to see impactful visuals, right? And doesn't always have to be death and destruction, right? If it's a fun feature, all right, does it have a good character? Do they have something interesting to say? I think a lot of times that part of it gets sort of lost because everybody sort of kind of might be a little tunnel visioned as it relates to their thing because they think that their thing is perfect for your programming and your air. And so I think just being mindful of what that might be. If that's, an event that may be coming out, or if that is a ceremony or anything that you want to recognize, think about all of the elements that should be as part of said story. Because I think Courtney mentioned this. We want to help you, but you have to help us in that aspect. And I think once that sort of mindset goes into said pitches or anything like that, then I think then you have a much uh, better opportunity of seeing your story make air.
Nice. And then Jay, what makes for yours is a little different because you don't really have the visuals because you're really listening to people's voices, like you're listening to them talk. So what makes you look makes a compelling story for radio?
Um, First of all, we do have a visual. That's the imagination. That's the beauty of a good radio person. They
Love it.
can literally put the vision in your head and the vision and you see it. It has to be something that's important to the community. And then things that you believe should be important to the community. Uh, Voting is one thing that is really important that I believe that we have to really center on. And uh, and why we have to participate in the process if we're going to change a world that's changing in a way that we want to see it change. So we will make those stories important in the way we frame it. So framing has a lot to do how important the story is, and then so it's two sides. You get important things from the community, things that are important to them, and then things you want to give them that you believe should be important to the community.
Thank you so much for that perspective. And then Larry, what do you think makes for a good compelling story?
Well, Jay hit a lot of the points, from our perspective as well, too, that it's, things that are important to the community. I think from the observer's perspective, we look at it a couple different ways. So historically, um, again, pre-internet, those kinds of things, pre-social media, we did a lot of things that we almost didn't say no to a story, right? Because there was no representation of African Americans anywhere else. So whether it was a birthday, a wedding, those types of things, we would cover, right? As time has progressed, technology has progressed. Um, there's still a little bit of a remnants of that where people kind of expect us to cover, the birthdays or the weddings or those types of things. Um, I think there's some places and spaces where we say that's a better social media post for someone to do more so than a news story. Um, we have, like I said, with the resources that we have, we really try to focus in on, really, really important, um, and what we call kind of high impact journalism, kind of the stories that take a little time, maybe a Sunday morning read of a story that might be, 2,500 words or 2,000 words or something like that, that really dive into different things. Right now, we're in the midst of doing a series on, um, Black men's mental health, right? That's not an easy story to tell. But we're diving deep into it, showing, the vulnerability that is impacting, or that Black men are trying to express, showing what resources are out there for African American men, and things like that. We're doing a series on gun violence and the impact it's having on Black families here in Sacramento. These take time, but these are the stories that we're as a newsroom kind of focused in on during this season for us. but it doesn't mean we don't do the other things or don't have tools to tell the other things. So we often tell people, the people will tell us, hey, I've got this event coming up. Can you do something on it? We direct them to our website, which you can post events for free. You can put up the flyer, you can put up the hyperlink, you can show how to sell tickets, you can do all those types of things on the website. That goes out to our email list. We pump those events up on our social media, all that type of stuff. So it's still a utility that we have. It's just not in the form of, can we dedicate a reporter and a photographer to tell a story, that might not necessarily, or might take them away from doing something else. And I think that's the reality that many newsrooms are facing right now is, there's just limited resources. So it feels like folks are not doing the type of local reporting that they used to do. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case. And I don't know if I answered your question.
No, no, you did. As far as the elements that make a compelling news story, and I'm hearing from you all, it's about impact. What impact does it have for the community to make you all want to come out and say, okay, no, this needs to go ahead and be covered now, or this needs to be previewed because it's going to have a bigger impact later for X amount of people. So you definitely answered that question. And before we get into the best ways to pitch, what are some common mistakes that you all see when you receive emails or phone calls with people pitching their stories? Larry, do you have one?
Okay, so I'll say a couple things. And Courtney's laughing. I don't know what you think I'm going to say, Courtney, but hopefully, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. I don't know. Couple things. So, when you send information in, do yourself and us a favor, reread it, spell check it, look for time, date, place, contact information, all those types of things. There are lots of tools that will help you with that. There's stuff like Grammarly. There's, in your Google Docs, you'll get highlights when things are misspelled or there's some inconsistencies. Use those tools to your advantage to try and make sure that those things are clear. And then I always say, send it more than once. Send it a few times if you have to, because the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and that's the case in all of our newsrooms. Many of us get a high volume of content and things sent to us. I've had the same email address for 25 years, and so I get so many emails each and every day. It's easy to overlook things. And so, but yeah, those would be the couple things that I would say.
Okay. Skyler, what are some common mistakes you see when people pitch to you?
I'm gonna go ahead and echo everything that Larry had to say, because there are times where, forget spell checks and grammar, they'll spell your name incorrectly and expect you to cover whatever it is that they have to pitch, and you're just like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and pass, because if this if this part of it isn't right, then I already know that we're gonna start off on the wrong foot. But I also agree with staying consistent and persistent about a pitch, because there are times, I mean, we get inundated with emails where, there are days where we would see hundreds, if not thousands, in a day. And oftentimes, you miss it. And, especially if it's something that you have enough of a window ahead of whatever said event might be, if it's 2 weeks, a month, what have you. Um, I absolutely recommend just sort of, if not daily, then every other day, just sort of checking in and doing it that way. The other thing that I actually just recently had a conversation with someone in public relations about is, at least as it relates for us for the TV side, and it might be a little different depending on the medium, is the sooner you have a firm idea of what it is that you want to pitch, the better. Yep, to Larry's point. Doug said something the day of. It oftentimes what we do, is choreographed in a way that, barring breaking news, we sort of have our sights set on what it is we're going to cover, whether that's a big story, a feature story, or anything in between. And so try to have as much gap in between, when you know that something is happening versus the absolute latest that you can, then you can get something out there. I think that'll go a long way, as well.
Perfect. Yes, please do not wait until the day of, because I
There's
mean,
nothing, and
unless,
you feel bad. You feel bad
yeah.
because you want to get to them, but you're like, oh man, we can't send a camera and, lights out to this event,
Hmm.
and it starts in 2 hours.
Exactly. Unless it is something that is significant, like breaking news that,
Yep.
a follow-up or something crazy has happened, 9 times out of 10, then that'd be like that exception. But
Mhm.
yeah, you cannot wait until the day of. Courtney.
Totally agree. Can I add the caveat? Also, don't tell us about something that's 8 months away. I I love y'all. I do. There's an event. I had 2 organizations reach out to me for something that's happening in January of 2025. God bless y'all, because we're prepared. Here's the thing. Newsrooms change or in flux all the time, right? There are breaking stories happen. Folks get sick because, we have regular everyday things that happen as well. People move on to different places. So the staffing is different. The same people who are here in April may not be the same people who are here in January. So if you send the information, that's great. I've been a good day. It'll be 29 years in August. So I'm probably going to be, I'm probably going to be there in January. However, if I'm on vacation, anything could happen, right? If you send me something for something that happens in January, you probably should follow up a little closer to the actual date of the event. I'm going to say a good window for us, and it could be different for every newsroom, but a good window for us is like 3 to 4 weeks. If you can give us 3 to 4 weeks of a heads up, that's pretty good. And then piggybacking on what Larry said, come back and visit maybe a week before, and then send another reminder maybe 3 days before, and then send another reminder maybe the day of. But that day of is a reminder because you already told us about it a few days ago, right? Because we do have filing systems where we can put information into a file, and so that we know this is coming up in 3 weeks or something like that. But there is it's kind of like it's a recipe, and you have no idea what's happening in newsrooms. It's totally not your fault. But to get yourself in a safe cushion, I would say 3 to 4 weeks is a good round cushiony spot.
All right. Jay, what are there any common mistakes that you see when people reach out to you?
People want their personal event to be, promoted on the radio, and it's a personal event. It's you're charging people. You are an organization. You're not a nonprofit. You're actually making money, and so it's like trying to get free advertisement. And we make it available for nonprofits and organizations that are doing good things in the community. So when you do send your information, make sure you send a phone number and name so we can contact you to get more detail. I'm not so much concerned about spelling and such, or if they properly send it, if they send it in a proper context, because I know a lot of folks are just, you know, um, this isn't their field of expertise. So I don't worry so much about that, but I don't have to because I'm not, Larry's going to be printing stuff. And so he doesn't want to have to do work on top of putting the story in this paper. Courtney is going to be, she's juggling, because that show is in real time. It's happening fast in real time. For us, it's a little different. So we can make things happen really quickly. But I think sometimes the community will take advantage of the fact that you have a radio station that you have that you can interface with. But Angelise is she's very acutely aware of what's happening and will cut you to the white meat if you try to put a slick one on.
Listen, because you can't try to get over on people and get free advertisement in certain spaces. Like it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So you all have talked about a lot of the common mistakes. So people not reading, rereading what they're putting, spelling. I think a big one is spelling the journalist's name wrong, because that is a big one, or not even looking to see if they're the specific person that should be going to. Like, you're sending a pitch to a sports reporter, they're not going to cover that, right? um what should people send to you all in a pitch? What are the most key things that you need to see in that email or even that phone call? Because I like to pick up the phone sometimes. So, what are some things that you like to see, or do you think that are necessary when a community member is pitching you? I will start with Larry.
Just a funny little fact first about the name thing. So I mentioned Genoa Barra, who's, like I said, been with us for about 25 years. She, when we were all working in the office, we haven't worked all together in the office since COVID. So folks are hybrid working, but she used to have a board on the wall of all the different ways people butchered her name in emails. It was just, and it was so, I mean, I felt for her because people would call her, Jolene, and I mean, just all kinds I mean, and we're Black folks. We got all kinds of different ways to spell our names and to do our names. So take that take that little bit of moment just to respect that person that you're trying to reach out to know that you're spelling their name right. Okay. Uh, the question you asked again was what again?
What do you look for in a pitch?
Oh, what I
Mm-hmm.
look for in a pitch. So I think, and like Jay said, we are trying to conserve our time and trying to not do work on top of other people's work. But here's what I would say: if you're sending us, you want something to be covered. Um, if I would say write down what the subject is and why it's important within 2 to 3 sentences. If you can't write down why it's important in 2 to 3 sentences, it might not be important. And I'm saying that respectfully, because what it will give you an opportunity to do is to think about what that subject is and why it is important. And so if you can write that out and say, we're doing a fundraiser because, of X, Y, Z, and this is why it's important, that will sell it easier to us. And it'll be more concise and it'll be really easy for us to digest it. And to then, for someone, whether it's a reporter you sent it to, or an editor, or just into our newsroom in general, for someone else to then be able to articulate why the event is important. But don't just put like, we're doing a fundraiser, this is when and where, and et cetera, and don't put anything else about it. So just try to take a little bit of time to just try and write it down for a couple sentences. That will help it go really far in our newsroom. I know that, and probably in some of the others as well too.
Yeah. Jay, what do you look for in a news pitch?
Well, a lot of times people will send us flyers that have a web address on it, and it has a bunch of different icons and stuff that you can't read over the radio. So for me, I tell people always include, if you have a web address, just something easy, www.myevent.com, boom, and a phone number. Because if you don't send a phone number for Black folks, then you're not going to get, it's not going to happen. But if you give us an easy website, www.myevent.com, or you can call 777-9311, and just, and it's easy. So those are the two things that I really, in information about your event. We're doing an autism event. I love the event. It's easy for me to say, go to autism art.tism2022@gmail.com, or dial this number 916 blah blah blah. And and the information is just, so if you put the information right there where we can read it, or we can give real information to the community that's easy for them to digest. That's what I look for. The harder you make it for me, the more likely it won't happen for you.
All right, that's a good note right there. Skyler, what do you look for in a news pitch?
Now Jay was in there preaching just now. That was spot on all the way through. Yeah, the only thing that I think I would have to add to that is make sure that you know where your stuff is supposed to go, right? Like I think just, you know, especially as it relates to the mediums, right? If you think something would be great for radio, know who it's supposed to go to within the radio newsroom or radio department. Something for the, you know, on print or digital, same thing goes there, and you know, and TV, obviously. And I believe Courtney was referencing the difference between the duopoly versus, you know, the traditional CBS station versus her more lifestyle branded things. There might be things that fit a little bit better in that lifestyle programming that won't exactly make it to what you want it to be in say traditional news format. And so I just think, you know, the more you sort of have a visual idea of where you want your pitch to go, the better, because that way we don't sort of we aren't trying to like tweak it and trying to figure out, well, we don't do this, but I know somebody who does, and you know, so on and so forth. And so I think that really would help your pitches stand out even more if you almost have an idea for what it's supposed to look like. And that way, again, the easier the pitches are, and on the receiving end, it helps articulating it and translating it for the medium.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to add about what they look for? Courtney, anyone?
Just a little note when you send out, like if you're going to do a press release or send an email, whatever, as Skyler was mentioning earlier, visual is for television, right? So tell us, what are we going to see? If you are going to have marching bands, if you are going to have, you know, hundreds of students working on a project, if you will have animals, whatever the visuals are, tell us what we're going to see, because that starts to pique the interest for television. If it's something that benefits someone, tell us who it's going to benefit. That piques the interest, whether it's print, radio, or television, right? We want to know how this impacts the community. So tell us who is going to benefit. What are we going to see? You know, the big why connecting, sometimes there are local stories that happen. If you're doing an event because something happened, tell us about the thing that happened, and that's why you're doing the event, right? Because that makes it newsworthy. So think about those kinds of things. Think about the ways that you'll make it thread, because if you can make a thread, then we're going to see the thread and we'll most likely want to cover it.
Yeah. And I will say too, we didn't touch on this earlier today, but this was the reason why we carefully curated our panel, because there is a difference between local coverage and national coverage. Not all stories should be sent straight to national. Most of the times your local news stations will get these stories, or media outlets will get these stories. And then sometimes they're so good or they're so impactful, they can travel to whatever media outlets wired that they have. A lot of stations, so you know, CBS, they do a great story. It's this, you know, great heartfelt story, and the national CBS network is like, oh, this is actually really good. Like everyone should know about it. Sometimes they will pick that story up and share it on their website or share it on their social media. So there's times where your local story can make it to that national platform, and sometimes the local stations or local media outlets don't even know that it's been posted until someone says it. So there is that opportunity, but I think it's also important to know what if your story should be pitched to your local or nationally. So I think that's important too. Now, this has been a hot topic, especially in the public relations field. Do you all look at news releases, press releases, media alerts? Do you all look at those? Anyone can jump in.
That depends.
Okay.
There's I think, much like how we were talking about the pitches almost having to be ubiquitous to catch our attention, I think, the same goes for media alerts and push alerts and press releases and those sorts of things. I think, what usually gets my attention anyways is an interesting subject line. Just like, oh, I'll tell you, just last week we saw one where someone from an organization said, there are more than 300 different types of drugs that are seeing shortages right now, which is a historic trend or something like that. Like something like that in the email line. Oh, I'm clicking on it because I want to see, A, is this something that we can make into a story, and B, what does that story now look like? And C, who's being impacted. And so I think, yeah, just just being consistent with it, I think for sure. Like it's not energy unwasted, or not energy wasted, I should say. So don't feel like you're like, oh, what's the point of doing this because these folks aren't even reading it.
All right. Anyone else want to weigh in on that?
I'll pop in. We definitely do look at your pitches and press releases and things. I did the nail on the head when Skyler said it's that headline, right? If you catch me in that headline, I'm there. But also, when I go down to look, if it just keeps going and going and because you have to understand, I'm getting hundreds of emails every single day coming from left, right, center. So if you can get that headline and get all the information that we need in one sheet, you're halfway winning the game, because we get so much information, we don't have a lot of time to decipher everything that's in the pitches and on the press releases. So if you can get us with that headline and get the nuts and bolts onto one sheet, and it's nice and clean, it's not like a big huge block of information, I'm telling you, it works.
Okay. Now, let's just say, for example, there is an event that happened, a media outlet wasn't able to make it out. Should people follow up with pictures and video to you all? Will you all still try to cover that? Jay, we'll start with Jay.
So I don't know if they want me to cover an event like that. A lot of the things that we do are things that are happening in real time, right before an event, workshops, information. I should say no, because Michael Brookins' daughter won a gold medal in a competition, and yeah, we wanted to talk about it. We wanted to talk about it. We wanted to make sure that people knew that that there was a young woman in our community that is great in the field of acrobatics and
Yeah, she was a gymnast, right? She's a gymnast.
Gymnast. So we wanted to make sure that people went out and supported after the fact. So it's according to what kind of event it is. So yeah, if it's something that we think is newsworthy, we want to talk about it. We want to say, hey, this is something that might be ongoing. This is somebody you might want to look out for in the future.
Larry, do you all accept pictures, videos, anything like that if you all aren't able to make it out?
So it depends on what it is. I mean, we do have a standard, a quality standard that we're trying to make sure that we maintain, particularly in the print product. I think what has happened over the last, 10 years or so is that people's expectation of what things look like, particularly online, has changed. I don't want to talk negative, but it's lowered, right? So you can kind of put more things online, particularly using social media. So if someone has, a video or something from an event that they did or that they were a part of, we might be able to use some of that video online, or a screen grab of that to use online or something like that. Might not make it in the print product, but there's definitely some of that. There's also times when I'll be honest, in our newsroom, what happens often is people will call us for something that they feel it's important. Now, and what does that mean? I'll be somewhat specific, but loose here. Someone will say, my grandmother is celebrating her 90th birthday. Now, that is not something that we necessarily have the resources to cover. But we understand the importance of celebrating our elders and understand the importance of um, even talking to those folks who have lived a life in our community and can share some nuggets about, surviving as an African American man or woman, for almost a century. So there might be times when we'll say, okay, look, we can't cover the event, but everyone has a phone, has a camera on their phone. Take a couple pictures, send them to us with maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs about your grandmother's life story, and we may be able to rework that into a story where that might just be something small that we do, but just is a way of making sure that we are staying connected and telling our stories without necessarily expending our resources. So sometimes it is helpful for those types of things to happen if it's an after the event sort of thing, or we talk, or they call us the day of for the 90th birthday and we say we can't do it,
Right.
but here's how we might be able to help.
Awesome. Courtney.
Yeah, I think especially on Good Day, we love to get those pictures and those videos, especially of things that have happened, because then we can come back and visit. For example, the young gymnast that you spoke of, we saw the video when these young ladies, won these medals and trophies and such. And so we went to the gym where they practice. Hey, if you missed it, these young ladies went to this competition. They came back, first place winners, here are the trophies, blah, blah, blah. You want to see what you missed at the competition? Ladies, take it away, right? They do part of their routine on the mat. That's just good TV. That also brings an interest for a sport or an activity or kids or community that other people weren't aware of. Now they want to go out and support because now they know that there's this young Black or brown athlete who's excelling at this thing. Now people want to go out and support this school, this athlete, this club, and that's kind of what Good Day is about, is making sure that locally we're supporting homegrown talent so that the community will then rally around those individuals. So we definitely love getting after the fact, not too after the fact. 6 months might be a little late, but week or two after the fact is great. And then we can do the follow-up, and we have the resources to go out and visit different groups and communities.
Okay. And then Skyler, do you all accept pictures, videos from people and after the fact or right before?
Yeah, I think the blessing in being, honestly, not even just at CBS, but when I was in Baltimore at our ABC affiliate, it was that we had different, you know, mediums in order to be able to tell the story. So if there was something that we weren't particularly able to get to and it didn't make our air, for a newscast, it could absolutely have an online.com presence. Or we even had like a YouTube page where things existed there, where if it's video that maybe potentially, added, was an addition to the story that we already did, it lived there. Obviously with the online write-ups and those sorts of things, that was there. And, it's just, to Courtney's point, don't send it too late. We've moved on. We know it's still in your heart. We know that it's still something that you're very much passionate about, but just sort of send it in a timely fashion, and you never really know where. And then social media pages as well, right? Most of these news operations have a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok these days, and so those sorts of things have a shelf life there as well. So I think just get it out there and see what happens.
Okay. Now, my last question before we get to the chat questions,
Mhm.
what is the best way for people to reach out, especially like PR professionals, communication professionals? do you like to get DM'd on social media? Do you like emails? Because there are some people that will put in their bio, like, do not DM me a story, email me. So what is your preferred way of pitching?
For me, I'm kind of if you find me, get at me, because emails are crazy as we've talked about. I think if now I will say that, depending on who you are, a phone call might not be responded to right away. But if DMs, email, I think that usually works. And don't feel intimidated because you may not have originally followed a person, or you've never sent them an email before. I think it's just, we live in a time where all of us are accessible in one capacity or another. So just, try to find me, and if so, we can get something going.
All right, Jay, what is the best way to reach out to you? Do you like
E-
DMs, emails?
Email. If you email me at JAYKING, the number 62 at gmail.com, and I'm going to get it. If you want to call, you call the office 916-467-8878. Speak to Angie, and she'll set you up on the radio. I'm easy to get to. I think it's important that we make it as easy and uncomplicated as we possibly can for the community.
Thank you for that. Larry.
Yeah, Jay, you want to give out your cell phone number too? I'm just, I'm just messing. But no, I
I'll
would
give
agree with
out
Jay.
yours, Larry, if you'd like me to.
No, that's right. So what's funny is a lot of people already have my cell phone, and that is I get reached out to on my cell phone often. But yeah, email is probably the best way to do it. We have our reporters. I give out everybody's email address. So there's just lots of different people on our team that you could reach out to. The easy one into the newsroom is newsroom@sacobserver.com. That will get to someone of authority to look at it. It again, but I would say if you send one to that type of an email address, that's the one you definitely need to send on multiple occasions, because that will be a pot that gets a lot of emails. Our phone number at the office is area code 916-452-4781. And I would encourage you also to use the phone as well to reach out to us. Social, we do get a lot of direct messages through social, Instagram, mostly Instagram and Facebook. Is where people reach out to us, and that is okay to do as well too. That has there's people there that can matriculate a story into the newsroom as well too.
Perfect. Courtney.
So I am a receipts kind of girl. I like a paper trail. So my preference is going to be email, but I will also say there is definitely a place for social media. For example, if you're sending a video or a picture of something that has happened that we talked about, it's great to send that, because then I can use that as a frame of reference for whether or not this is something that we would want to cover or follow up on. So social media actually works as well. But I probably will, in the DM or in the message, tell you reach back via email, because again, it's just easier if we can create a paper trail. We're setting up segments, we're setting up, meeting dates, all that kind of stuff. It's just easier to have it all in one place. And I would also, it probably depends on the outlet, but for example, with our station, if you go to the website and you're like, oh, I don't know how to contact you. If you go to any person's website, most likely you can find contact information for those journalists through the website. You might have to poke around a little bit because not all websites are set up the same, but kind of go to the meet the team, bios, different pages, so that you can find contact information for these individuals, find the contact information for the newsrooms. It's usually on the website somewhere.
Perfect. All right, so we did have one question in the chat. It says, has online news hindered or helped any of you? That's by A. Greg. Has online news hindered or
Okay.
helped you in any way? Larry, you want to go?
Well, I'll start that because digital media has probably impacted print more than anybody else in any other industry. Our industry has been flipped upside down over the last 20 years with online news and technology. But here's what I would say related to that. So for a majority of the last, for like 15 of the last 20 years, the first 15 of the last 20 years, technology really created a real challenge for newsrooms like ours because the um, entry point for digital transformation was extremely high, was very expensive. It's very costly to build websites. You had very few people that could work on websites, so you had to have, high salaried people to work on, updating content and creating um, uh, websites that would work in a user friendly experience. So that was very challenging for us. Now, in the last 5 years or so, what has happened is technology has kind of worked a little bit in our favor in that though those entryways have become much more affordable. So the CMS that we use not only become, and the CMS is the content management software that we use on the back end of our website. Um, that has become much faster. It's become much more cost efficient. And so, the website, the sacobserver.com website that you pulled up, 3 years ago or 5 years ago, or more like 5 years ago, was dramatically different than the one you're pulling up today. The one that you'll pull up, a year from now will be different than the one you pull up today because that technology is people are learning how to make the stuff move much more efficiently and again cost efficient for us is the real challenge. But we at our newsroom we're not getting rid of the print product, but we do consider ourselves, and we talk about this internally, that we're a digital first newsroom with great print products. So we very often are putting stories online, pushing them on social, that might not even see the print product, or what you see online is going to be something totally different than what you see in the print product because it's a different medium and it's delivered differently. So it is extremely costly to do this work of telling one story in multiple ways for a newsroom like ours. And I'm very appreciative of the team that we've been able to get and the resources that we've been able to find in order to kind of hold off the challenges that we're facing. But it has definitely impacted us. The other part of that I'll throw at this real quick. Most people, there's a lot of talk and conversation about how people either trust or don't trust news. And I think a lot of that comes from, kind of the national talking head commentary space. And I think one thing that has happened in the last few years is while people are becoming less and less trustworthy of national news and that talking head news, the local news from people like Jay, ourselves, Courtney becomes much more and more valuable. People have a greater appreciation for knowing and hearing the stories of the community more so than the talking head type stuff. So that to me that's a trade-off that to me is extremely valuable.
Awesome. Anyone else want to answer? Has online news hindered or helped you in any way?
For me, it's helped us because we get to, I'll take the O.J. Simpson story, for example. It helped me to decide how I was going to engage with that conversation because every conversation I saw started off with him being accused of killing Nicole Simpson. And so it made me want to go back to who is O.J. Simpson. That was the third part of his life. This was a man who had two parts of his lives before that. One as a football player, the other as a celebrity and pitch man, and very successful. So that as the story is told about um, the tragedies of somebody's life, that we can tell the whole story and not just one segment of it. So for me, I'm able to look at some of the stories and decide how we want to frame the story versus sometimes one-sided stories or stories with agendas attached to them versus whole life stories on people, whether we agree or disagree with them.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. So the last, let me see. The last thing I wanted to share with our attendees, Courtney actually put this together, which is a sample media advisory. So I'm just going to share this, and we will send this to all the attendees afterwards. But Courtney, do you want to? Can you all see it? You can see it? Courtney, can you see the?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and share?
Yeah. So basically, I was the public relations officer for Jack and Jill a couple of years ago, and so we were doing an event. This was actually last summer when the regional teen conference was being hosted in the Sacramento area, and the teens were making skateboards to donate to the skateboard park that was being named for Tyree Nichols, who, if you remember, was the young man who was killed in Tennessee after an altercation with police. So there's a news peg there, right? And then there's also hundreds of students who are going to be making these skateboards to donate to a park that's being named after a young man who was from this area, killed in another state, but from this area. So all of that information is important and will draw the eye of a newsroom, but it's the way you tell them, right, how to find this information. So the most important thing is the contact information. Make it super easy to find. I put it up at the top. Our news operations director, Cecil Houston, who's not on the video call here, also suggests having an extra contact person, because sometimes the person who's on the contact sheet is not available because they're directly involved with the event, whatever. So if you've got a secondary person, that's good as well. Make sure you've got the email information, a phone number, preferably a cell phone, because then you can text back and forth, those kinds of things. The headline tells you that you're going to see hundreds of teens helping to design these skateboards for Tyree Nichols. So they're all the news pegs right there in the headline. Kind of tells you about the event, the who, what, where, why, right? The 5 W's and the H are in there. The date, time, location, right smack in the middle, and it's set apart so that if I were to just pick this up, my eye goes right to that center portion so I can see, okay, when is this happening? Am I going to have a crew on this day at this time, and where it's happening? So that's easy to see. And then also on the bottom where it says visuals, again, tell me, what am I going to see? This is especially important for television operations, because we want to know, is this something that is going to make a good television story? So tell me what I'm going to see. And then some background information about the organization that is putting this event on. So that's at the bottom, shows you about Jack and Jill of America. All of this fits on one sheet. Again, it's visually, the things that I want you to pay attention to are set apart. So it's not hard to find, who am I contacting and when is this? When and where is this? And then the other information is kind of in there. So that's kind of the idea, right? You just want to make it easy, and you want to make it plain, as the elders would say, just make it plain, as simple as possible, right? And if it's on letterhead, that's even better, because then it makes it look like it's legit.
Official.
Although you can make up your own letterhead, it just looks a little more legit.
Yes, thank you so much, Courtney, for sharing this. Again, we will send this out to our attendees so you have a copy of that. that is the end of our webinar. We actually a little early. Everybody likes that, right? A little early, but if there's anyone that wants to come off and if they have anything that they wanted to say, this is your time. You can do that. All right.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for asking me to be on the panel with these esteemed panel members. I know Jay, I know Larry, and Skyler. It's nice to see you outside of a CBS live shot. Pleasure to see you, brother.
And if I
Likewise.
may, thank you everyone for all of the wonderful information and answering the questions the question that I had originally had in my response. So thank you so much for your leadership in the community, as well as being here with us today. It is sincerely appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Desiree. Tiffany?
Yeah, no, I'd like to echo that. This was right on time because I have a nonprofit and a community event. So don't be treating me like a stranger. Don't shun me like a stepchild. When you see my name float through your inbox, remember me. But I appreciate this. This was right on time and well received. So thank you for dedicating the time on your Saturday morning to be with us.
Thank you, Tiffany Martin. Anyone else?
I just want to jump in.
Go ahead, Brandy.
Go ahead, Brandy.
I just want to jump in and say thank you to all of the members of the community who participated, of course, to our incredible panelists for your insight and your perspective, for sure. NABJS is busy at work doing the things of the community, and so this is just one of the many programs that we have done. So I am excited about how this turned out. I love the participation and everyone taking part. Once again, apologies for not showing my face. I'm not presentable. I'm not as glamorous as Lanaya and Courtney on this fine Saturday morning, but I am here and fully supporting the team.
Catch her on KCRA during the weekdays morning. Our president, Marcus.
I just wanted to echo the same sentiments as Brandy. Just thank you for everybody in the community that showed up today on this call. I know there are some things that you might have to do this Saturday morning, but it means a lot to us as the individuals organizing the event. So much kudos to you. I'd like to thank our panelists, of course, our Courtney, Larry Lee, Jay King, Skyler. Thank you guys for all the knowledge, all the insight that you were able to provide for us today. And this is just the beginning, like Brandy said. We're NABJS is continually working to provide a space here in Sacramento. So thank you for all your continued support to everybody here on this call.
Thank you, Marcus. Anyone else? Last call. All right. Well, thank you all again. Put a nice little plug in there. If you don't follow us on social media, please do so. Again, this will be posted on our new YouTube page that we're going to be working on. So you can go back if you missed something, and then that example template will also be sent out to you all for example press release. So thank you, and I hope you have a good Saturday. If you are here in Sacramento, it is raining, so be careful if you are out driving. Have a good one.